This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for participating in our fifth COVID-19 weekly conference call. For those of you that don't know who I am, I'm Wayne Mitchell. I'm the president and CEO of the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce. I want you to know that we're recording this call and that members of the media have been invited to participate on this call as well. I would respectfully ask that all of you put your phones on mute until we're ready for the question segment of the call. I also want to remind you that the Chamber has a wealth of information located on the Chamber website at www.nacogdoches.org. Please visit the COVID-19 resource page for that information. One message I did want to deliver this morning is that I wanted you folks to know that in recent days, the Chamber has detected a major uptick in calls from small business folks here in Nacogdoches and Nacogdoches County, expressing frustration about the status of loan and grant applications and the inability to communicate with agencies. I want you to know that we're doing our best to refer them to the appropriate organizations to answer their questions or to find out why there's been such a slow response to these questions. But I will tell you that especially the last 2 days, it's been a challenging time here at the Chamber with so many folks calling distressed about it. But having said that, we'll work through it and we'll get the answers hopefully sooner rather than later. We'll begin with our first presenter, and for that purpose, I will introduce Claire Robbins, the chairman of the board of the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce. Claire?
Good morning, everybody. Today I have the great pleasure of introducing our U.S. Representative Louie Gohmert. Welcome, Representative Gohmert. Representative Gohmert is a tireless advocate for East Texas on critical issues protecting the freedom of religion, speech, and states' rights. Today we are anxious to hear from Representative Gohmert the latest COVID-19 developments in Washington. Representative Gohmert.
Yes, it's great to be with you. Thanks, Wayne and Claire. Thanks for doing this. As you mentioned, Wayne, there has been a lot of frustration over the Paycheck Protection Plan, a lot of confusion, and hopefully that is getting worked out. Unfortunately, when the loans initially rolled out, since it was through the SBA, those banks that were preferred lenders, which were virtually all of the biggest banks, but the community banks that do so much for our communities, many or most of them were not preferred lenders yet, and it took an extraordinary number of days to get that get the credentials so that their loans could start being processed. And I was on the phone to Washington and fussing, and we had a number of calls each day trying to get that done. It was accomplished, but unfortunately, the preferred lenders got their loans in first, and there were tens of millions of dollars that went through the community banks. I don't know the exact percentage, but Treasury Mnuchin, Secretary Treasurer Mnuchin, was bragging about how much went through the community banks after he'd heard so much fussing about the slow track for the community banks. But in this bill that supposedly we now have an agreement on, if your application was already filed but was not funded, it should be funded with the next tranche of money that's coming. The Senate will hopefully vote this afternoon, maybe 4 p.m. Eastern. That's the hope. And then the House, originally we had heard we would be voting tomorrow, and it will be hopefully a recorded vote, but that's my understanding. But there will also be a vote for the first time in a number of decades to allow proxy voting. We had gotten away from that because the committee chairman would just have demand a proxy from everybody on the committee, and then he or she would just vote everything the way the chairman wanted. So we got away from that so that we could have each individual member of the House having some authority at least. But that is supposedly going to be one of the votes to change the House rules to allow that proxy voting again. Right now it's reported there'll be $310 billion additional for the Paycheck Protection Plan. There'll be $75 billion for hospitals. $60 billion is supposedly going to be for rural hospitals. A lot of us have been fussing about that. We can't lose more of our hospitals. Growing up in a town that was a fraction of the size of Nacogdoches, I always considered Nacogdoches to be big city, but most all of our hospitals in East Texas are considered rural for purpose of this type of funding. But there will be money for them. Be $25 billion more for testing and $60 billion for economic injury disaster loan programs. But that you need to talk if you've gotten an SBA loan before. That's something you can talk to your accountant and the SBA about. But it would again go through your bank. With regard to the Paycheck Protection Plan, there's been some confusion, but February 15th is the main date that the IRS and Treasury rather will be looking at. 25% can be of the loan can be for mortgage interest and if or lease payments if those were acquired before February 15th. In other words, if you had your lease or your mortgage in place before February 15th, then that can be one of the payments that the loan goes for. If you have 75% or more go for payroll, then and you've kept, I think I'd heard 90, but some people have said 100. But we were being told 90% of your employees were still being payroll, then that would allow the loan to be forgiven. But it's for 2 months max, and the program ends June 30th. And I'm hoping, pray, where businesses are up and running. Now, the president did come up with some directives. Well, they're not directives, they're guidelines for states and localities to reopen. But he has said, we're leaving those to the state and locality. I know I was on a conference with the governor and members of Congress and elected members of the state house, and the governor was saying, we're reopening Texas, but it sounded like it's not as open as some would like because you have to order through phone or through the internet and then pick it up without going in the store. But I understand the president saying he's giving guidelines, but it's going to be up to the governor and to the localities as to exactly how they roll out reopening. And by the way, there is a powder that's being tested, should be this week by the FDA, and it's supposed to be a great deal better according to prior tests in Germany and other places. That would be a better disinfectant. I hope it works out that way, but that is in the works from a German company. For the U.S., they use an Arizona distributor. But we'll see. There are just so many good things that are being tested now that will provide a lot of hope. But the cure is still out there ways down the line. I appreciate hearing from people, problems that you're having. I'm on conference calls every day, either Treasury Secretary, different folks, Health and Human Services, and it really helps to know what your problems are so that I can express those, and then we can get that information back to you. And that includes here, and I've heard from a lot of banks that have had lots of problems, and immediately I would be on a conference call or on a direct call saying this has got to be changed. Unfortunately, our local chambers of commerce mostly are 501c6s, and they have not been included. Some of us have been pushing hard that they should be included because they do so much and will be doing so much to help get the economy reopened, but that's not established yet. So I think I've used my allotted time, but just let me emphasize, really let me know any problems that you're having, and we will get you answers as quickly as we can. And thanks so much, Wayne and Claire, for doing this call.
Thank you very much, Representative Gohmert. If anybody has any questions for the representative, this would be a good time to ask.
I leave people speechless.
Well, you did a great job. That's evidence of that. So, well, again, Representative Gohmert, thank you very much for joining us. And we realize how busy you are, and in these challenging times, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us.
No, I really appreciate being included. And I know people have got to have questions. Just call my office or email and let us know what the problems are so that we can get those addressed. That's my job.
Representative Gohmert, sorry.
Oh.
This is Nancy Wyndham with the Texas Forest Country Partnership. We had sent a letter in to you and kind of outlined some of the challenges that our smaller counties and our smaller businesses are having with because everything has to be done online, and because everybody doesn't have the resources like most communities have.
Yes.
Some of them I found out in the last conversations, they were not even aware of some of these programs. So I feel like as a regional organization, we're trying to get that word out there. The Nacogdoches Chamber has shared this call with everybody in the region to bring them up to speed. How is the best way, in addition to a letter, is there anything else we can do to send the message up that rural America, rural Texas, rural East Texas, we have our challenges, and by the time that some of these folks even know about programs, the larger communities, the larger companies have already scarfed up, so to speak, the monies. The cap was 10 million.
Yep.
Is there any way on this next tranche that they could lower that cap to 1 million?
I'm not sure that the deal has been struck, but let me just say it's because you pass that information on about how much trouble people were having when the program rolled out that first Friday morning. I had a chance to talk with the Treasury Secretary on Friday, and we had another call Saturday and another one Sunday. And fortunately, there were enough of us from rural areas that were complaining heavily about that problem. And so they were working with the SBA to try to correct that. But my point is, by virtue of the information you got me, I was able to, apparently I'm good at fussing, and I was able to raise a lot of Cain with a number of others, and they went to work on getting the SBA where others who had not been preferred lenders could get through, and we could get more definitive answers about the program. I mean, for example, independent contractors and self-employed, where it was not clear that they could be included, and then and there was partnerships were not included initially, but continuing to hear and get complaints about it, then Mnuchin made clear, okay, independent contractors, self-employed, and partnerships finally were added so that they could be eligible. But if you were a partnership, you by the time you were allowed to apply, the money was gone. But if you get an application in, don't give up. Hopefully this money will last, and a lot of these loans, hopefully most of the loans will be taken care of. But and for those that are not clear, if 75% of the loan you get goes for payroll and 25 for other expenses, it not more than 25 for other expenses, what Mnuchin is saying right now, then the loan will be totally forgiven. And most of us are not big on having our federal government do giveaways, but since the government shut people's businesses down and didn't give them a choice, this is something that I think is wholly appropriate. So, but yes, please continue to complain when there are problems like that. It made a difference because it caused a number of us to complain, but me specifically, I got that information and was, especially Saturday and Sunday, that first week, was heavily complaining about the unfairness and that our banks needed the chance, the smaller businesses needed that chance, but it was supposed to be for businesses under 500 employees. You know, it was controversy because we had some larger companies that, that included Ruth Chris and Hallador, that got loans. Shake Shack, they were apparently too big and they gave their $10 million back. But we don't expect most of this tranche to be bigger loans. They should be smaller loans because of the complaining that was done before. So thanks for getting me that information. It does help, and it fires me up to complain as your voice.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your support, and thank you for your time today.
Oh, of course, you bet.
Congressman Gohmert,
yes.
This is Travis Clardy. Hope you're doing well and appreciate your service to East Texas.
Travis, thank you.
Well, two questions for you. One has to do with the folks I represent in both capacities as the representative and the lawyer, but the affiliate rule has come in, and you talked about the restriction on 500 employees. There's also restrictions, I understand it, where they're related, which is common, and these companies are set up for good business purposes, but it has precluded some companies from participating because they're affiliated to other companies through common ownership. And that's the first question. Has anything been done to address that? Because that affects a lot of East Texas businesses. Second issue is related to our local county hospital district. I know Dr. Head, is the chairman of the board, is on this call with us. But because of the size of the hospital, but also because it's a political subdivision, it's been excluded from participating in this. And you're probably aware that a number of hospitals, both private and public, have had to undergo a series of furloughs because of the rules shut down non-emergent, non-COVID related practice within the hospitals in large part, which has had a dramatic effect on our bottom lines. And so is there anything that could be done, one, to expand for the affiliate rule to allow more businesses that have less than 500 employees or scattered around to avail themselves of these programs? They're hurt just as bad, and their employees are really hurt. And secondly, on the political subdivision rule, you anticipate that there will be something in place to help. And I don't want to go to state government or city government right now, particularly those county hospital districts around the state of Texas, where they can apply and get into a PPP program or some other favorable grant program. through a
Well,
lot.
thanks, Travis. Those were two issues that were brought up yesterday
Hey, Miles.
with Minute. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. We got you.
Yeah, okay. But both of those were issues that were brought up with Health and Human Services and with Mnuchin in both of the last 2 days because for exactly the reasons you mentioned. There had been a prohibition if a hospital had any relationship with government. And as you said, we have a lot of hospitals that have that relationship. And so we didn't get an affirmative yes, but there was enough fuss raised about that issue that, you say you finally are on board, you want to help rural hospitals all you can, and you got them designated in this bill this week. But if it continues to preclude those that have any relationship with a city or county government or state, then it's going to still devastate them. So hopefully we'll get a new ruling out on that, Travis. That will continue to be a push this week. It sounds like it's something that could be handled by them making a rule change or changing a frequently asked question answer, because that's how we've gotten some of these things changed and clarified. So we'll continue to push that. I'm flying up late tonight so that we can be raising Cain in person tomorrow and before the vote on Thursday. But the bill, it sounds like, is set. But like I say, some of these things have been fixed by rules changes within Treasury or Health and Human Services. And so that's something we'll keep pushing to do. But now, as I understand it, Travis, one of the problems that I keep hearing about from doctors and hospitals is the Texas Medical Board. And I know they've said, oh, yeah, we're leaving those decisions on what is essential and what isn't to individual doctors. But at the same time, the Texas Medical Board has said, if you do a surgery that's deemed not essential, then you can lose your license, and it is subject to punishment by a misdemeanor. And so that's got a lot of doctors and hospitals going, we can't risk this. I sure hope the Texas Medical Board will issue more clarity so that they're not threatening people's license, because somebody in a tremendous amount of pain it may not be from something life-threatening, but if they're in a tremendous amount of pain, it ought to be considered essential without a doctor risking his license or her license to do the procedure. So I think we've got some work to do at both the federal and the state level on part of those issues. So
and I think Governor Abbott's office is trying, is working with that issue. He addressed that in his most recent executive order last Friday, as we're trying to put the state back to business. But you're right. There have been some issues with the Texas Board of Medical Examiners, which we will address sooner than later. But
So let's work together and contact me directly if there's something we need to be on top of like that.
We'll do.
Thanks for the input.
Give yourself a good dusting before you go back to DC tonight.
Yeah, we'll do. I've got my Lysol.
Representative Gohmert, I want to thank you once again for your participation here today. And if anybody has any additional questions, if you want to convey them to the chamber, I'll be sure to make sure that they get to Representative Gohmert's office. But again, thank you very much.
Thanks, Wayne.
Folks, we'll move on the agenda, if we may, to hospitality industry update with Sherry Chaney Morgan, the executive director of the Nacogdoches CVB. Sherry?
Hello. I was going to try and do something fancy with presentation, but apparently my fancy pants are not operational currently, but I do have information to share with you. Hotel occupancy is down 23.1% over this time last year. These are figures that we get from Smith Travel Research, which is sort of the industry standard metric that we use to measure these things. And these figures do not include the Fredonia Hotel, which voluntarily opts out of the Smith Travel Research reporting during the time of their abatement agreement with the city. So down 23.1% over the same time last year. Year to date, we're down 3.9%, and running 12 months, we are down 2.1%. So not great, but certainly could be worse. RevPAR is another industry lingo. It stands for revenue per available room. It's down 24.6% over this time last year, 3.6% year to date, and 0.6% for the running 12 months. Our average daily rate for rooms is steady currently. So that's sort of the landscape of where we are occupancy-wise. As a reminder, your Nacogdoches Convention and Visitors Bureau is fully funded through 72.5% of that remitted hotel occupancy tax. So we like when those numbers are high. So there's that. I did want to take some time to look at tourism as an industry. So what we know from the governor's office is tourism is the second largest economic driver for the state of Texas, and it is second only to oil and gas. So for the first time in a long time, our top two economic drivers for the state are in some severe, dire straits. In 2018, which is the most current figures that we have from Dean and Runyon, which is an agency contracted through the governor's office to measure these things, we in Nacogdoches County, we had in excess of $1.1 thousand workers in hospitality and tourism. Direct traveler spending was $86 million for 2018 in Nacogdoches County, which was up from $80.1 million. And local tax receipts from that direct traveler spending was $2.8 million, which was up from $2.6 million. So when we're looking at tourism, when we're just thinking of happy faces, they come in, they get a map, they get a brochure, they get suggestions of things to do, they eat at a restaurant. That's all true. But behind that, this is an industry, and it happens to be an industry that for us here in Nacogdoches is vital. And so the success of tourism and how we bounce back from this is of great importance, not just to me and my two children who have grown accustomed to 3 meals a day and clothes on their back. And let's not forget our cute little dog, Charlie Doches. But it's important to us all. I don't mean to make light of it, but it's a big deal. In response to this COVID-19, the Texas Travel Alliance has contracted out an advertising bridge campaign in correlation with their longstanding tagline, which is "Life is better in a state of travel." I'm going to put a link to that 30-second video over in the sidebar. If any of you feel like you might be able to use that in your own business or for your own uses, let me know, and I can get you the raw file that you can use as well. This is just a 30-second piece that talks about travel in Texas in general. We're going to be using here at the Nacogdoches CVB, we're going to be doing some Nacogdoches branded specific pieces, companion pieces that will correlate with that as well. And on our own, at the end of April, we're going to be rolling out sort of our planning phase of starting to welcome back, rolling back, opening our gates to let those visitors back in. And we're calling it Put a Pin in It. And we are referencing like a map pin. Visual aids, fun. So When it is safe again to travel, this we're hoping is going to promote our new Visit NAC app, which is available for download for both Apple and Android devices, which is in essence a really intense and really cool, very visual itinerary builder for people. So instead of the call to action being come see us now, our message is going to be come see us when it's safe and plan out your visit. And here's what we have to offer. We need help with that. And it's hard for me. I was just born this way, blame my parents. It's hard for me to ask for help, but I'm going to need your help. I know some great people, but I don't know enough great people. We need names for this campaign. Now's the time to call in chips and favors. I envision Coach Carthel with a large, comically oversized map pin in the middle of Homer Bryce Stadium, calling on people to raise their axes and put a pin in coming to a future SFA game. I envision Dr. Gordon in front of the beautiful STEM building, or Surfing Steve, encouraging people to plan their recruitment visit to Stephen F. Austin. If we happen to know of a particularly vertically robust state representative with a well-appointed home amid the red brick streets of historic downtown Nacogdoches, how amazing would it be to have him and his lovely wife encouraging tourists to head our way when they can. Do you know George Foreman? Please encourage him and his friend Terry Bradshaw to come see us. We need Mayor Brophy. We need Chiefs Seavey and Kiplinger. Now is the time, friends, to pull out all the stops and scream from the pine tops. Visit Nacogdoches. Not just for me and not just for my kids, not just for Charlie Doches, but we need this for everybody. We've got to make our comeback so much greater than our setback. Thanks.
Thank you, Sherry, very much for that update. We are pleased to have with us today Senator Robert Nichols. Senator Nichols?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I needed to press *6 or what, but appreciate everybody being on the line and having this conference call. Today is San Jacinto Day, April 21. The governor, as y'all all know, had a press release that he was going to have a press release this past week on opening up the state. He opened up a few things. He wanted some groups to come up with suggestions on opening it up again, step by step. Senate kind of working on some ideas, some of the different committees to also come up with some recommendations that we hope will help some of those groups. In the meantime, one of the more pressing things I know we worked on for several weeks that have impacted our medical facilities was the elective surgery issue. Lots of phone calls, lots of people. Finally, the governor did open up for some elective surgeries, I think beginning this week, which I think will help our hospitals quite a bit. And we'll see how that goes. And hopefully he will, if that works well, he will continue open it up on the next step. If you start looking around for personal protective equipment, it looks like the bigger systems who have a lot more staff, a lot more purchasing power, have got quite a bit of PPE, whereas our small rural hospitals that are standalones are still having and struggling to get them. And so, as well as individual practices, I've talked to different doctors that have single doctor practices, and they're just really struggling day to day to keep PPE. And so they can, if you know of people in that situation, you can work through your county judge. And there is the STARS program, I think it's being run by the Texas Department of Emergency Management. State does have inventory. If they reach out and do an application for that, I'm sure we can get some supplies in there when it's needed. The probably second most thing is the unemployment. I think last week I mentioned to y'all that we had called the Unemployment Texas Workforce Commission a month ago and told them they better gear up. Well, they did gear up, but nowhere close to the tsunami wave of applications that came in. And there's still several 100,000 people behind. Our offices have talked to so many people that they call and call and call and call and can't get an answer. And I would tell them not to give up. But the most efficient way for them to make contact and get their application in is by online. And late at night to early in the morning, I know that's kind of an unusual time to do an online application, but the systems are not overloaded in the evenings and early mornings before 7 o'clock. So I would encourage people to try to utilize that. I will say in our office, my staff is continually working with people that are in groups and businesses that have unusual problems. Like Louie Gohmert said, it does help. It helps us to understand what areas we need to be working on the most. When you're talking about overall unemployment, you can just get on Google, look up jobs lost. The number one ranking group, and you just heard from them, is the leisure and hospitality. It's 10 times the number of people that are out of work in that industry than in the healthcare, which is the next is professional and business services, and then the fourth one is retail. And the leisure hospitality is probably 10 times in one of those other groups. So anything we can do to open those up, I'm certainly one of the ones who's looking for ways to do that, and we will definitely feed in any ideas you have. What I realized is that each of these industries, whether it be the restaurant association or any of these specialty groups like that have representation, have already come up with recommendations of how to incrementally open up their area using good practices, social distancing, and so on. And so they put a lot of thought into it, and I think we need to try to utilize what they're recommending. So I'm kind of personally thinking more like Georgia, where they're on a much more aggressive opening up schedule. So if y'all want to look and see what Georgia's doing, that's certainly the direction I would hope that Texas would take. Might be controversial to some people, but we have flattened out the curve and time to put people back to work in a reasonable way. And those who are elderly or in bad physical health need to continue isolating themselves and stay away from everyone else. But other than that, I don't really have a whole lot to say. The personal protection plan that Congressman Gohmert, it's Congressman Mitchell, not Senator. What I saw early on is in the rulemaking, it was originally tailored for businesses under 500, that they changed the rule for 500 per location, which opened it up to huge businesses, national chains and stuff. And that's part of what gobbled up the largest sums of money. Whereas most of our individual businesses are really and truly under 500, we're left in the dark. And hopefully the Congress, when they vote on this next one, will try to tailor some of that, and I have all kinds of hope that they will. But other than that, I don't really have anything else to report unless somebody has a question for me.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions for Senator Nichols? Senator, I want to thank you again for your participation today. We really appreciate the information. It's also my pleasure to introduce Representative Travis Clardy. Representative Clardy? Clardy?
Thank you, Wayne, and great to be back on the show. I'm figuring out how to work our cameras here where I can see everybody that is up video-wise, and that's good. A big increase from our last call. Yeah, everybody, look at everybody there. It looks looking good. Senator Nichols, I'm going to have to chastise you, though. We need to see your smiling face on video. We love the dulcet tone of your voice, but it would be wonderful to be able to see your smiling face. So I'll check with your staff on that one. A couple things we've not talked about this morning, and I broached this subject last week, and now it's even like more apparent this is going to be maybe a bigger issue for Texas long haul than the virus. I think we're getting our arms around the virus, how to treat it therapeutically. We're getting better equipment available. I think we're over that kind of period of unknown and uncertainty, and moving into an area where we can understand the problem better, deal with it better. But in the meantime, we have seen absolute collapse in the energy sector. On the trading of commodities, a negative value of a barrel of oil, which is nonsensical. I think Wednesday the June contracts go out, and we'll probably see that settle somewhere low 10, 11, 12 range, maybe, for a barrel of oil, which is going to have a dramatic effect. The good news on the short term, from a consumer standpoint, that's good news. A gallon of gas is probably going to drop to $1.50 at the pump. It's going to lower energy prices. It's going to help people that are struggling to make ends meet. So that's a good thing. But long term, it's like a wreck on the highway. The cars are compressed in this bottleneck area, and it's going to take it a long time to unwind and stretch back out into a normal flow. We've completely filled the capacity in Texas and in the Southwest for petroleum, and the refineries aren't running. We're not using the refined and finished products because of the slowdown in manufacturing. So this is going to have a dramatic effect on all governments, federal, but particularly the state government in Texas, and also I think in the municipal values, when you look at the values of certain appraised values for those taxes. So this is an issue. We're going to be watching this. This is not going to straighten itself out in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, the time period that we're talking about the maybe getting opening up the state economy and changes in ways of doing things and getting back to whatever normal might look like. This is going to take a period of months, 6, 12, probably 18 months before that unwinds itself. And so this is going to be a difficult time for us to sort through. I'm going to be communicating with our federal partners and with senators and Congressman Gohmert and others that this might be a time we want to consider using domestically produced petroleum exclusively to other imports. And then what we could do, and I say domestically produced, I would include within that our North American partners and other strategic partners, in this hemisphere. But be that as it may, that's something we all need to keep an eye on. And we may have different issues about the use of fossil fuels, carbon fuels, and there's other related issues. But fundamentally, this has been a major shock to our system in Texas, the impact that the loss of energy revenues is going to have on any number of essential services. Just FYI, keep an eye on that one. Don't need to panic, and a lot of people are thinking about it, but we're going to have to work through that issue. Since our last conversation, again, I think I want to give a tip of the hat to our folks at Nacogdoches Medical Center and Nacogdoches Memorial and SFA, DeWitt School of Nursing. The treatment center is really doing, the testing center is really doing a fantastic job. There's been a lot of people I've talked to Judge Sal about this and been concerned about the elevated numbers that we see in Nacogdoches County compared to other counties around the state and really around East Texas. We're really a victim, I believe, of our own success, that because we've had a more aggressive testing procedures, and really on our own, not because the state's doing it or somebody else is doing it, because our people grabbed the bootstraps and set it up, and thank you, Dr. Gordon, for helping make that happen. But we're testing more cases positive. The good news is our recovery rates are also greatly exaggerated moving forward. Hospitalizations have remained relatively flat. And other than a couple of isolated pockets, we know why they came up. We're not seeing a big dramatic increase. We're just seeing more cases, and we certainly have the capacity at the hospitals and in healthcare to deal with those cases. So if you hear somebody talking, to try to allay their concerns or suspicions, one is the state numbers and the local numbers, health numbers, sometimes don't match up exactly. Nobody's hiding anything. Nobody's trying to confuse anybody. So sometimes there's, the numbers cross in the mail, basically. So, but the good news is I think we're getting as good of data in Nacogdoches County as anywhere in the state. And I think we're responding to this well. So that is a very good thing. Sherry, I did hear your admonition, and yes, I will talk to the First Lady about us doing a promotional video about our fair city and getting folks back on the road with or without masks. Don't do what my good friend County Judge Chris Davis in Cherokee County did when his wife said that she needed to go pick up some things at the store and asked, should I wear a mask? He said, no, but you might want to put on a little makeup. Let that one sink in a little bit. And see, I think his wife did not think that was as funny as apparently some of us did. So, but we got to maintain a sense of humor through this deal. Sherry, appreciate your report and what you're doing. I couldn't be more proud of how we respond to this. Friday, a little selfless plug. We've been doing, my office, we're going to do a 3 o'clock. We've been calling them fireside chats. If the weather's nice, this might be a poolside chat. Friday at 3 on Facebook Live through our Travis for Texas site. And maybe, who knows, Sherry, maybe we put a little plug out there for visiting Nacogdoches and all those things. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. But it's great to see more smiling faces this week than last.
Thank you very much, Representative Clardy. I really appreciate that. And if anybody has any questions and you prefer to convey them electronically, send them to me and I'll convey them to Travis, or obviously you can send them to his office directly. Again, thank you very much. I'm also pleased to welcome the President and CEO of the Nacogdoches Economic Development Corporation, Larissa Philpot. Larissa.
Hello. Thank you guys for having me again. What I'm going to cover today is what businesses should be thinking about right now in order to think about opening up. There's been a lot of discussion this morning about, the controversies about opening up and who should and who shouldn't. Just know that the governor's last executive order, his most recent executive order, while it is a step, it doesn't change a whole lot for the majority of our small businesses. It essentially opens up curbside service for our retail establishments. There's a bunch of other things in that executive order, but from a customer contact standpoint, that's the biggest change. So in that, the Department of State Health Services and the governor's office has issued some guidance about how to get ready for that. And in this time of things are difficult to find and difficult to buy, you need to start thinking about that now, because you may have to buy some of these things that may take a couple of weeks to get to your place of business. So first, make sure that you've trained your employees on disinfection and good hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette, just like you train them how to use the cash register, train them how to do this. Screen your employees before they enter your place of business. Or worsening cough. Ask them if they have shortness of breath, sore throat, a loss of taste or smell, if they're feeling feverish, or if they have a temperature over 100 degrees, or if they obviously have had close contact with somebody who has had COVID. Think about buying some of those thermometers, some of the forehead thermometers. I know they're difficult to get your hands on, so if you are wanting to do those, you need to order those quickly because it's going to take a while to get them in your hands. And these apply to every business, not just retail businesses. I'm seeing Ted there right in the middle of my screen right now. Maybe your agents, you guys have this discussion with them every morning in a staff meeting, and ask them to take their temperature. That's the only way we're going to be able to open anything else. Yes, and make them use hand sanitizer. When they walk in the door, tell them to wash their hands. If you're in a large establishment, can you install a sink somewhere near where they walk in? Ask the employees need to wear face coverings. In retail establishments, they're saying that they absolutely should wear face coverings. They need to keep 6 feet apart. Maybe that means that you change your lineup the way, in our factories. Maybe they have to change the way that they are actually doing work in those factories. Because this is not going away tomorrow. This is not going away next month. And it may not go away before the summer. So we need to be prepared to work like this for several more months. Customers may not enter retail premises still. So you can do, of course, mail delivery. You can do delivery to homes, and you can do curbside. And so that's essentially what this order did, is it opened up curbside delivery. They're asking you to do payment over the phone or online if possible. Just like I talked about last time, this is the time to open up your web presence and make sure that you have a capability for your customers to pay you online. And then also employees need to wash their hands after each interaction. Just a little bit about the PPP program. I have been told, and I apologize if somebody already said this, you know, we know that fund has essentially run out of money, but if you got a loan number from the SBA, you should receive your funding. So if unfortunately your loan is still in processing and you have not received a number yet, then yours is one of those that's caught in limbo and you won't get funded until the federal government refunds that program. So if you are still applying, the U.S. Chamber's website has a great step-by-step guide. And then also the EIDL loan, same thing. They're also no longer processing because they're out of money, but we just heard hopefully they're about to refund that some more. So with that said, if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Larissa. We appreciate that. And again, I'd remind you that those benchmarks that were issued by Governor Abbott last Friday are on the Chamber website, on the Nacogdoches Chamber website as well. And we appreciate everything you're doing, Larissa. Thank you. I'm also pleased to welcome the president of the Stephen F. Austin State University for the purpose of an update. Would you welcome Dr. Gordon, please?
Hello, everybody, and I do have a few things for you today. First, Sherry, I'd be happy to do a NAC commercial, although, you know, I am shy and reserved, so I might be, you know, a little nervous about that. We need your help too. If everybody could help find students out there, if you are interested in taking classes, now is the time to sign up. We have some classes that can be completely online, and your help recruiting our students. I tell everybody here on our campus that we are all recruitment and retention agents of the university. So let's make Nacogdoches our biggest recruiter. A few things, you know, COVID-19 is going to, and already has had a tremendous impact on higher education, higher ed budgets, enrollment, athletics, and the longer we have these restrictions, the more impact it's going to have. So thankfully, there has been some support, especially for our students. And this week, we have begun the process of applying for and figuring out how to distribute about $5.2 million of CARES Act money to our students. And those are monies given to students who have hardships based on the COVID-19, be it hardships with housing, childcare, food. So that is in process. A couple other things. As you know, the Lieutenant Governor has established the Business Task Force to provide recommendations to open up business and restart the economy. Higher education is a part of that. And there is a task force that has been put together by A&M Chancellor Emeritus Kent Hance, and I'll be participating on that. We have a phone call tomorrow, actually, to begin talking about how higher ed across the state can be preparing to reopen and keeping in mind the safety and health of you know, students, faculty, employees, visitors to campus, and so on. So that will be something that will look at every single aspect of opening higher education again, from how to offer classes. If we do offer on-campus classes, do we go with social distancing? We are actually working on a plan here on campus that we're going to be discussing over the next week or two that should be a very innovative plan for the fall. We also are going to be looking as a higher industry sector about should we have some kind of a screening for faculty, staff, students, and visitors as they arrive onto campus? Should we be taking temperatures of those individuals who arrive to campus each day? How can we protect our staff by procuring face coverings as well as face shields, or actually plexiglass shields for those who are working in various offices that are student support offices, like the registrar, the financial aid office, and so on. So those are all things that we'll be talking about on this phone call. And as you might expect, this is going to have tremendous impact on higher education as a sector for a long time. So that's all for my report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gordon, for that update. We really appreciate that. And there are several of us that could help you disseminate that request for online students. Feel free to have your staff share that information with us, and we'll certainly get it out.
Okay.
I'm also pleased to welcome
Wayne?
Yes, sir.
This is Keith Rayburn. I had a question for Dr. Gordon, if you've got just a second.
Go right ahead, Keith.
Okay, for those of us that operate businesses on campus, we've received very little guidance of when that might reopen. We're all assuming probably September at the earliest. Can you provide any insight into that?
Yeah, we're going to make a decision whether or not we will have some semblance of normalcy for fall. We'll be making that decision sometime in June. We're expecting probably late June. And now that depends too on the guidance that we're getting from the coordinating board and the state subcommittee or task force that I just talked about. So what we are telling folks is we are planning to be have students on campus for the fall. But we will have contingency plans ready if that is not possible. So I can't tell you a definitive answer, except that we are still planning for students to be here come fall. So.
Thank you, Dr. Gordon. Keith, is that you okay?
Yes, it's just trying to get some idea of when we can plan for our employees as well. So thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you again, Dr. Gordon. We appreciate that very much. Representing the nonprofit community and social services, I'm pleased to introduce Gary Lee Ashcraft, President and CEO of the Nacogdoches Area United Way. Gary Lee.
I'll go real fast. Thank you, Wayne. I'm going to do shout outs real quick. We have a COVID fund up on our website. It's getting hit. Thank you very much. People are donating. I want to give a shout out to Encore, Roger Lindsay. They're going to provide, or in the process of getting us $15,000 for the COVID fund. We really, really appreciate that. The purpose of that fund is to support in whatever ways we can agencies who are they are awesome. They're out there on the street working to provide food and electricity, utilities, rent, any kind of help you can imagine. That's what that fund is for. I want to give a shout out to Pilgrim's Pride. They have provided over in excess of 8,000 pounds of chicken. They're in 44-pound boxes, chicken sides. We were able to get chicken to Hope, helping other people eat just as they ran out. And if you want to see something amazing, I went out there on Monday. They're open on Mondays now, Monday morning, and the Texas National Guard was out there. The amazing part was how many cars were going through the line. They gave out 750 cases of food, and I swear to you, it was 1,000 cars that were winding through the neighborhoods. You see this on national TV, but when you go and look at it in our community, it is incredible. What's neat about it and wonderful about it is how much these agencies are helping. Richard Condolella today, he was calling in, I'm sure, for help while we're on this call. He is over at Pilgrim's Pride picking up boxes of chicken, getting them directly into the communities that are poorer communities, if you will. And those people are so grateful to receive food. At one juncture, he wasn't connected to us that way, and he was taking loaves of bread and peanut butter to these folks. It's real in our community. There are people that need food, need electricity, and what have you. My final shout out is to Caroline Garner. She has been single-handedly working on a program called Emergency Food and Shelter Program. This is an established program. She has brought that program back to life just in time and gotten our agencies in those areas $32,553, and the checks are in the mail and on the way for those agencies. So thank you all for all you're doing, and of course, live united.
Thank you very much, Gary Lee. We really appreciate all you're doing as well. The fellow I'm going to introduce next is one of probably the most overworked person in East Texas right now, doing a spectacular job in communicating with our businesses. Would you welcome Larry Cain, please? Angelina College Small Business Development Center. Larry?
Morning, everybody. Travis, I want you to know the reason my face is not on this call is that too many people confuse the SBDC with the SBA. And right now, I don't want anybody to think that I work for the SBA. So too many business owners out there are so frustrated, just like what Wayne was talking about. I've been getting those phone calls steady for the last 3 weeks from frustrated and angry and fearful business owners, and mostly in Angelina and Nacogdoches counties. One of those calls yesterday was from a salon owner in I believe the Nacogdoches area, and the salon owners really need some guidance on when they're going to be able to reopen. I know I need a haircut. A lot of these ladies probably would love to be able to go to a salon right now, and the only guidance they're getting, according to this salon owner, is if they try to reopen, license revoked, and that's not good. So maybe Travis and Senator Nichols can help with that issue. Maybe some more guidance will come out next Monday when the governor makes some more announcements. A lot of the frustration, of course, comes from the financing with the SBA. The EIDL program, which is out of money as well, to me has more value than the PPP program. And I say that because the PPP program, the money has to be spent within 8 weeks. And I'm afraid a lot of these businesses are going to be in just as much trouble 8 weeks from now as they are right now. And the EIDL program is more of a long-term solution, hopefully trying to keep businesses in operation for at least 6 months. Not just 8 weeks. So, unfortunately, the EIDL program is not going to get nearly as much proceeds as the PPP program. I thought I'd give you a few numbers that I did get from the SBA this week on the PPP program and some of those results. There were 1,661,000 businesses that received PPP loans. The average loan size was $206,000. And they did give us a breakdown on those loan categories. And this is the Can you hear me? Can you hear me,
We can
Wayne?
hear you, Larry. Yeah, I can
Okay,
hear you
I'm
now.
sorry. Heard something that I was muted or something. So 68% of the total loan amount of that $349 billion went to loans that were in excess of $350,000. Now, to qualify for a $350,000, you have to have a monthly payroll of about $140,000. And that's not what we think of as a small business here in East Texas. When we think of the businesses on Main Street in Nacogdoches, they don't have an annual payroll of $1.7 million, and that's what it would take to qualify for a $350,000 loan in this case. Texas did receive the largest number of loans from the PPP, almost 135,000 loans, and Texas received the second largest as far as number of dollar amount of loans to California. Texas businesses received $28.5 billion. So I really like Nancy's suggestion to lower that cap amount from 10 million to something much more reasonable, so these large corporations can't walk away with all the money. 68% of the total loan amount of loans of over $350,000 just doesn't help our really truly small businesses that much. I don't want to take a lot of time. I will say I was able yesterday to confirm with the SBA that the idle applications that are pending, that people actually have an application number, that those applications are still being processed during this period of time, even though they don't have funding. And the frustrating part for a lot of these people who applied for idle loans back in late March, which was over 3 weeks ago, they've still not heard anything from the SBA. And people ask, well, how can I check the status of my application? And the only way to do that is to call the 800 number and wait on hold for maybe an hour to an hour and a half. And what I'm hearing from people that have done that is all they say is that we're reviewing your application. So I really don't think it's worthwhile to make that phone call. I do know that a few clients I've talked to yesterday actually have received their grant money out of the idle applications. They received anywhere from $1,600 to $10,000, and that's good news. There were 3 of those, and a lot more of them that have not received it yet. But the money just shows up in your account and really doesn't say what it is. So check your accounts on a daily basis if you have applied for idle. And I'll close on a positive note. I know the Nacogdoches Chamber has on their website information about the Save Small Business Fund that's administered by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. That's a $5,000 grant. It opened yesterday. I suggest if you're going to apply, you better apply today, because these types of programs usually don't last very long. The money will be gone. And I believe you have to have between 3 and 20 employees to qualify. So be sure and check that out. And there'll probably be more of these small grant and loan programs coming up in the near future. So that's all I have. I'm always available to answer questions. We get updates from the SBA almost daily. Sometimes it's just not the information we want to hear. But be glad to help anytime, Wayne. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larry. We really appreciate all you're doing, and we understand these are challenging times for all of us, and you're doing a great job in helping us communicate with our members and businesses. I'm also pleased to introduce Dr. Amy Mehaffey, the Communications Director for the City of Nacogdoches. Amy and Anna Middlebrook have done an incredible job helping keep us posted on the latest local developments, and we're really blessed to have them as a team. Dr. Mehaffey? Amy, your mic is muted, Amy.
That's the first time in my life that somebody couldn't hear me. So thanks for letting me know. I apologize. It's like I get the mic muted at the wrong time and not muted at the other wrong times. So as I was saying, I appreciate you all being on this morning, and I continue to bribe my children with food. So there will without a doubt be an interruption at some point. I can almost guarantee it. So I apologize in advance for that. But I just want to applaud everybody on this call for staying informed. It is certainly a challenge when you have controversy from the top down, if you will, in terms of when to open, how to report numbers, how is testing going. And you can see this on a national level. And if any of you follow any of the pages, including the city page and the emergency management page, you can see the amount of frustration and questions that take place in the community. And those are just the people that are asking questions. And so we always encourage questions, criticism, any of those things. We work for the citizens, and we will continue to do so. And that means that everybody's opinion has a place. That being said, we really look to you to help us with rumor control. It is a very challenging situation. We get everything from you're not giving us enough information to we don't like the way you're giving this information. And so we will continue to try to accommodate citizens as best as possible. I think it's important to kind of outline for you, Representative Clardy touched on this, but there was a number discrepancy over the weekend, and you will probably see this as we continue on between state numbers and local numbers. I will uphold that the local numbers from the emergency management page continue to be the most accurate. The state will sometimes get test results from anywhere here locally, and that could be somebody from a contiguous county, and they will report that as a Nacogdoches County location. And what that means is we have to verify the addresses for our 911 system. And so kind of behind the scenes, there's a little bit more verification as the tests go to the state to be confirmed, the test results to be confirmed. It comes to a Tyler office who then sends us the information that we're giving to you. That being said, over the weekend, we saw several cases from other counties in our count. And so that getting lost in the mail, crossing each other in the mail is a great analogy for that, because it's not, as was said, it's not like we're hiding anything, but it is important to us that we continue to give the most accurate numbers possible, because we are the local municipality that's in charge of this emergency. As you may have noticed last week, if you're following anything, we have, with the help of our GIS department at the city, been able to develop a dashboard. That dashboard allows us to really get some meaningful data. As this disaster began and we had a few cases, the status cards that you see, the blue status cards that have the estimated numbers, those were really valuable. But as you start to grow in cases, you need to see a full picture of the data to truly get an accurate representation of the way that the data looks in the community. And so that dashboard is a little bit hard to see on a cell phone, and that's unfortunate, because I know a lot of folks use their cell phones, but there is a way to do that. So if you have access to a computer, you can also blow up each little box on that dashboard on your phone to look at each piece of information. And so please continue to encourage your employees and anybody who you may come in contact with to look to our data for meaningful information. The Institute for Health Metrics projected a few weeks back that the community would peak around April 30th. We kind of look to the metropolitan areas, and then we feel like the rural areas follow within a few weeks of that. April 30th was the initial projection. Again, these are projections, but they have moved that date up, which is positive, to potentially April 19th, which was a few days ago. And so we may have peaked, but we may not have. We may start to see those numbers come in a little slower and maybe kind of change their trajectory, but that's hard to say this early. But it is potentially a positive indicator of us getting, the numbers back down. You may have seen kind of an educated guess as to why our numbers are quote unquote so high. I encourage you all to remember that in a pandemic, 70 to 80% of people will have this virus at some point. The goal was never to keep people from getting the virus. It was to keep people from getting the virus all at one time. I'm happy to report that our hospitals work together very closely, and they have what we call surge plans to plan for if we do have an influx of patients. But you would be very proud if you could see behind the scenes your local hospitals and how they've adapted the facilities and worked hard together to ensure that the medical community as a whole has the resources that they need. And so that is a definite badge of honor that anybody related to healthcare in the community can wear. We also get a lot of questions about the amount of people that are out and about. That's anecdotal. If I drive by Walmart during a busy time where people typically get groceries, it does look full, and I won't deny that fact. Enforcement is taking place in terms of the stay-home order, but I also think the data speaks for itself. These numbers are a few days old, but you may have seen on national news the Google mobility report showing, using cell phone data. It's kind of creepy how much Big Brother is really watching, but the cell phone data allows for, be quiet, please. The cell phone data watches where people go and what they're doing. And so in a comparison, our wonderful fire chief was able to run some data for us. And this was April 11th numbers. I presume that they've only gotten better. But we are down as a country 45% for retail and recreation in terms of visiting those locations, and in Nacogdoches 42%. And so we're just behind the United States, and the state is about 48%. And so those numbers are valuable because it does show that overall we are doing a good job. We are up 22% of people staying home. For the country, 14% of people are staying home, and for Texas, 16% are staying home. So we are doing a lot better than the state as a whole in terms of people staying in their resident areas. And so people are going to the grocery store across the state at 14%. That's down. So what we're thinking is the trips are less frequent, and we're here in Nacogdoches down 12%. And so although it may seem like some of these places are busy, and they are, there probably are a lot of contractors that are doing more work because people are realizing they're spending time at home, and they're realizing, man, we should really get this thing fixed that we've been putting off. And so there's a lot of different factors that play into why you may see things be busier than normal. We are looking, as you have heard several times on this call, at opening up the community. I anticipate that the city will continue to issue guidance that yields to the state guidance. I've sent out this morning some retail information from the state at how retail businesses can do curbside and take payments and do things like that. And so we will continue to help push that information along. I know we're a little long on this call, and so I will just continue to encourage everybody that you come in contact with to ask questions and stay informed. Of course, do that in a kind and compassionate way, because there are really a lot of world-class people working on this emergency. You have some of the people that are recognized across the country for emergency management working on this disaster here locally. And so again, it's something to be proud of, and asking questions is always a good thing, and we will continue to encourage that conversation. And as always, just call me if you have any questions, and if you need a high-paid consultant, I also have Hunter Mehaffey here that can assist with any questions that I may not be able to answer. So with that, I am all done unless there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Amy. I appreciate that very much. We'll now hear from Les Linebarger, the Communications Director for Nacogdoches Independent School District. Good morning, Les.
Good morning. Thank you, Wayne. With in-person classes canceled the rest of this academic year, NISD will wrap up the semester through distance learning models already launched. Distance learning online for students with reliable access to the internet, and paper packets for those without adequate ways to obtain lessons digitally will continue through May 28th, which is the last day of classes on our 2019-2020 calendar. Last week, during a conference call with Texas Education Agency, the Commissioner of Education made that much clear that distance learning should continue through the end of our scheduled semester. Last week, NISD issued new grading policies for the 5th and 6th 6 weeks for the spring semester. The changes apply only to this semester and move from the numeric grading scale everyone's familiar with to a pass-fail method with ample opportunities for students to make up work. The new procedures also make allowances for grade point averages of our high school students, including the class of 2020. Class rankings for our graduates this year will also revert to standings at the end of the fall semester. NISD student nutrition continues to feed children at 5 locations. Meals are distributed on Mondays and Wednesdays. Please see the COVID-19 page on our website at nacisd.org for times and sites for distribution. And then finally, there are 2 school board meetings this week, both taking place through the Zoom app. Tonight's meeting begins at 5 p.m. and is state mandated board training, something that doesn't go away just because of COVID-19. And at 5 p.m. Thursday, the board will hold its regular monthly meeting with an abbreviated agenda. Please see the district's website or the district's Facebook page for information on how to view either of those meetings. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you very much, Les. Appreciate that. And I'm sure that a lot of parents now that have much greater appreciation for our school system and our teachers. Appreciate that very much. I'm also pleased to introduce Nancy Wyndham, the president and CEO of the Texas County Partnership. I've asked Nancy to give us kind of a regional snapshot of what's going on with COVID. Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning. Thank you so much. And I see we're already at 11:20, so I'll just quickly hit the high spots and maybe get you a document that we can post out and share with everybody to save time. I know we're running out of time. A couple of things. The first one is that don't remember the part that a female played in the Battle of San Jacinto. Sometimes we forget all of that story. So let's just remember the part that a female played into that. So moving forward, we are as a region, and I looked at the charts last night of all the cases, and this is updated as of yesterday at noon. Our 12 county area had 237 cases, only 7 fatalities. And of all the number of tests, we tested 925 people. So if you look at who has the highest number of cases, that's, of course, it's Nacogdoches County because we tested the most. Because people outside of our area look at the numbers and go, well, why is Nacogdoches so high? Well, that's because we've tested so many of them. Out of the 12 counties, only 2 counties have had fatalities. The rest of them have had 0. We've had 2 counties that only have 1 case. So all of our outlying rural areas have fewer cases. So as a whole, you know, I think this is a great marketing tool. If you want to stay safer and stay well, move to East Texas. And hopefully after all this is over with, one of the good things is that some companies and families will want to move to our rural area to start their businesses or to expand here. But we're working closely with the governor's office. I mentioned earlier that we have sent letters out to our congressional delegation, hopefully would bring something to the table along with everyone else to give them some support for what we need for smaller businesses. To say that, you know, 500 employees, well, that's all relative. We want to keep sending that message up there. A large company for our area is much smaller. Betty Russo, she and I have started weekly phone calls because she's been getting information from the governor's office on things that she needs to report back up. I was pleased to find out that when the governor announced that there is a strike force and who was on it, there's also an advisory committee, and many of you have already gone down into that list to find out who they are. So on a regional, and you know I'm all about regionalism, on the advisory committee is Adriana Cruz, who heads up economic development and tourism, and then Robert Allen, who heads up the Texas Economic Development Corporation, and then there's also Secretary of State Ruth Hughes. And we're communicating as regional just with them to be accessible to provide information as they move forward in their meetings with the strike force on rural East Texas needs. The Texas Economic Development Council has a numerous amount of webinars. They've canceled their conference, their forums. They're also turning those into webinars. I'll get the list out of those that are available. Also, there is a GIS planning report that is an interactive tool that's free. I'll get that information out to you as far as that goes. And then some of the requests from the governor's office of information that he's asking for right now, that I think it's our time to step forward as a region and to respond to those. So I'll be asking for participation for all the county information. I am on a call. It's a out-of-state call from different economic development folks, and they're saying that most of the people will go to a county website to look for information. So I would encourage us to look at our county websites or communicate with our county judges, make sure that the information that we're wanting to share is also on their website, because there are some businesses and some individuals that will first think about going there, making sure that we've got that information in the right places. With that said, I'll just go ahead and end and know that we are here. I know Tanya sent in our request for the PPP before the bank ever was ready to accept them. We have received those, and I'm offering up our support, her support, to help a small business that needs some help and encouragement on filling out forms, provided that the new funds are approved. When they are, if they need help, just that initial stage. I'll give kudos to all of our banks. So proud of our bankers and all those that are working really hard to assist all of our small businesses. So as a regional, I would just encourage everybody to reach out to me or to Tanya and let us know, so when we do send the messages up the channels, that we are all coming together. I'll have to give a plug for the Angelina Chamber. I know y'all work well and close together. Their formats have been doing interviews, which are recorded and posted. So if you could go to their Facebook section, I know Larry Cain did one. It was very comprehensive, great information. A lot of it he shared. Lonnie Hunt will be on it on Friday. He'll be talking about the census. So as a region, I encourage everybody, if you haven't, please fill that out and utilize what is out there. Nacogdoches is doing and has done a great job. Appreciate your sharing this link with all of our counties that can glean the information and support that they need. So thank you again for all of your help. Appreciate the opportunity, and I will get you some of this list of things that are available to share with others. Appreciate your opportunity. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Nancy. We really appreciate that information. And I do want to let you know we are working wonderfully with our Angelina Lufkin Chamber of Commerce, along with our friends in Longview as well. Nancy, Kelly Hall up there has been very gracious, and we share seminar formats and things like that. And I encourage you to, when we post them on the website, feel free to go to those other chambers. I'm delighted that in East Texas we have such a cooperative attitude about working together. I want to thank all of our presenters today and our participants, all of you folks. At peak today, we had just under 100 on the conference call today. I want to remind you that next week we'll be joined by Senator John Cornyn. The senator is confirmed to be on the call, so if you wouldn't mind marking your calendar for the 28th at 10 a.m., that would be great. If you have any additional questions that you chose not to ask today during the forum, if you'd email them to me or to the participants, I'm confident that they'll get you an answer. And again, thank everybody for participating today. And please stay safe and healthy and have a great week. Thank you very much.